Today we're working on our 2006 Suzuki Eiger 4x4 400. We're doing the front right side CV joint axle. You're going to need a 30 millimeter socket, 14 millimeter, a 12 millimeter, a 6 millimeter Allen, a pair of side cutters, and depending if your CV joint is in two pieces or in one piece, mine is still complete in one piece, but when I did my other side it was in two pieces. So when I pulled it apart, this rubber boot right here was busted and this whole shaft came out, but the cup stayed inside of the differential. So what I had to use was a pair of vice grips, and I got a piece of all thread. I believe it was 3/8/16 all thread, and I put just a counterweight. I had a piece of brass laying around, so I put that, some nuts and washers in the back, so you can use it as a slide hammer. So you can bite the cup here, bite it, and it holds on, and then you can use this as a hammer to knock it out. Bam, 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 and it'll knock it out. First you need to do is pull your wheel off, take off your brake caliper. There's two bolts, two Allens, one here, one there. Ooh, she's on there pretty good. I really need two hands. There we go. Brake pads are pretty worn out there. Set it aside. Next thing you want to do, you have a bolt here for your upper ball joint, a bolt here for your bottom ball joint, one here for your tie rod. So you can see that. There we go. Yeah, for your tie rod. And then you have your castle nut in the front to hold your hub. I loosened everything up already, so this is a 14 millimeter here. This lower ball joint, same thing, 14 millimeter. Oh, you know what? I'm mistaken. That was a 12 millimeter. That was a 12 millimeter. And this one was a 14 millimeter. I also had a cotter pin on the bottom of this ball joint here. I had a cotter pin. You can see the hole. There's a cotter pin in there, and same thing here on this castle nut. There's a cotter pin, and that's what I use the side cutters for, to bite it and actually use it as a wedge and pull it out. So once you have everything loose, this piece should just slide right out. Yeah. If you're going to replace your bearings in your front wheel, which I'm going to do, this is basically the same process you're going to do to remove this whole steering knuckle here. You got to do everything that I'm doing right now. The only thing you don't have to do is pull your CV axle out. So use a rubber hammer, tap it here, and tap it here, tap it here, and those three will slide out, and then you'll be able to slide this rubber out, this steering knuckle out. Okay, now that I've tapped everything loose, what you want to do is get your tie rod out of the way. Sometimes you have to use a, I believe it's a 12 millimeter wrench right here to hold it in place, to tighten it back. But for coming off, it came off pretty easy. And you push lower down, and then you can pop it right off. And it comes off in assembly. That's your bearings. You have a seal on the outside, a bearing, a spacer right in the middle, another bearing, and then another seal. So two seals, two bearings, and right in between the two bearings, you have a spacer. It's just a little metal collar. See how it's loose in there? But I'll do a video on how to well, no, I'm not going to do a video on how to replace these, because there is actually quite a few videos out there on it, so I'm not going to do a video on that. But I'm going to go ahead and replace those since I have them. The other side has a little bit of play in it. My axle is actually intact. It don't sound too good, but it's actually intact. So what you want to do is give that a good tug, and it popped right out. A little bit easier than what I thought. Just holds on with that on the spline. Seeing that little groove right there? There's a little ring in there, and that little ring actually holds it in place. I replaced the other side, and like I said, it was actually broke from the boot here, and it came off in 2 pieces. And that's why I had to come up with this little design here to actually get that piece out of there. But this one came off whole. I'm just replacing it because I went ahead and just bought a new one. I didn't want to mess with them. These are the original ones, and they're prone to give out and break. So I bought some better upgraded ones. And to reinstall it, it's basically the same thing. You know, you're gonna use this. If this was your new one, line up your spline, get it in there, and give it a couple of pushes, and it'll go right in. If it doesn't go in, I've seen some people actually, they say to pull this out like that, just to give it a little, to get it that clearance. I'm not too sure why they're doing that, but you can push it out like that so it's not compressed like this, so it's decompressed, and then put it in and push it in. You don't want to beat on it. You don't want to, you know, if it's not going for whatever reason, you know, you want to check, double check, make sure your spline is right, make sure everything is in there. It's a little bit of a booger to get it back in, because you do have this new ring right here. So it's going to fit tight, so you gotta kind of manhandle it and push her in there, and then it'll lock itself in. And then repeat your process. You know, put your steering knuckle back on, bottom ball joint, upper ball joint, tie rod. Put your 2 bolts back there. You bolt here, cotter pin. You really don't want to reuse your cotter pins. You want to put new cotter pins in. I've seen people reuse them, but it's not my preference. I'd rather just put a new one in there. Tighten everything back up, put your caliper back on, and you're ready to roll. That's basically all you need. Okay, I got her in there. She's nice and tight now. It doesn't come out. It was a pain in the ass to get it in there, I'm not gonna lie. I actually had to lower my jack down and put a little pressure on the other wheel to actually be able to get in there, and kind of tap this with my hand and get it in there. You don't want to beat this thing in there, because there is bearings and seals and stuff in here that you do not want to damage. So you don't want to beat on this. Just, you know, everything with hand force. You know, I'm not gonna lie, you got to put some balls into it, but you can get it. Once you're in, you'll know, because when you try to tug on it, she's not coming out. You won't see any spline, so she's not going anywhere. The new CV joint actually came with the new castle nut and a new cotter pin, so that's a bonus. Now I just got to assemble everything else back, and she's ready to go. Same process with the steering knuckle. Just put everything back, put all your cotter pins. I like to use new cotter pins. Some people don't. It's your preference, your choice. I'm actually going to take that with me to work, because I'm going to press those bearings out, put some new bearings in, and be done with her. I believe that's it, man. If y'all got any other videos that y'all want to see, man, let me know. You know, I'm kind of new to this, so I know my camera work ain't all that good, and it's kind of hard to see sometimes. But please like and subscribe, and comment below, man. Let me know if there's anything y'all want to see. I guess that's it. This is Throttle with Riding Dirty Motors. I'm out.